episode 28 of the Heart of a Villain podcast. Today, I'll be speaking with the captain and the co-captain of the brand new chapter in Wyoming, and I've also got a special guest coming up a little later in the episode. So stay tuned, and it's coming right at you.
One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay feeling. One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay feeling. It's BV, it's BV, BV, it's BV,
Yeah.
it's BV, it's BV,
BV.
it's BV,
BV.
it's BV.
It's BV and Jellified, Jimmy Beam and Bly. Reaching highest where we reach, yo, it's highest to the stars. Beats in the villain Jeep, vibrating other cars. Whose world is this? Yo, we say the world is ours. So we grow beards, no fear. Photos so clear, take another shot, so to speak. Yeah, more beer. BV worldwide, put a fist to the sky. Cheers, cheers, New Year's, dope rhyme, good vibes. My crew speaks power, Chi-Town bleeds power. Knowledge, wisdom, and truth in the final hour. Respect, loyalty, family, charity speaks power. Bearded Villains, brotherhood speaks honor. Forwards and onwards, stay villain to the end. I will never shave again because my beard is not a trend. I represent excellence, leadership, and never follow. I'm a BBC member, yo, lieutenant of Chicago.
One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay feeling. One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay feeling. It's BV, it's BV, BV, it's BV, it's BV.
Hello and welcome to episode 28 of The Heart of a Villain, the podcast devoted to the bearded villains' worldwide brotherhood and the lives they are changing all over the world. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you are a first-timer here, welcome. For those of you who are not a first-timer or you're tuning in on the YouTube, on the live stream, I greatly appreciate those of you who are here. Welcome, everybody. It is Friday night, and we are on episode 28 of The Heart of a Villain. If you like bearded villains, if you like bearded men, men who do charity, or anything like that, you have come to the right place. Again, I'm BP from the Bearded Villains of Indiana and the host of The Heart of a Villain. Today on episode 28, we have a captain and co-captain of a brand new chapter of Bearded Villains here in the United States from the Bearded Villains of Wyoming, and I'm really excited for you guys to get to meet them. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic going on right now, usually the stuff that we like to hear from with new chapters, that real get up and go energy, ready to go do and change the world and hear about all the things they're getting ready to do, unfortunately, we just couldn't hear that this time because, well, they're having a hard time meeting up just because of they're not supposed to right now. So I'm really excited, though. They have great leadership, and they're going to take off. They got boots on the ground, and they're ready to go once the pandemic is over with. So I'm excited for everybody to meet them, those of you who have not. Also, I have a special guest coming in, and we're going to get to know one of our bearded brothers a little bit better and hear, well, we're going to hear about his life and his story a little bit. So that'll be a surprise guest coming up in the future of the podcast. So again, BP here. I'm really excited. Those of you who are here, this is going to be a fun episode. But first, I did want to start out today by recognizing a couple of sad incidents that happened over the course of this past week. I think it's really important when incidents like this come around that we acknowledge them. And earlier this week, one of our brothers, who is one of the best brothers that you could ever hope to have, he travels all over the world. And when I tell you I'm talking about Saeed, you know who I'm talking about. He lost his father this past week, and so I wanted to pass on from our show our prayers and our thoughts for his family, and let him know we're thinking of him. Also, I did want to pass on condolences and prayers to one of our brothers over at the Bearded Villains East Anglia chapter, who just recently lost his son to cancer, and just such a sad situation. It happened very, very quickly from when we found out about it in the Bearded Villain community, and I just wanted to acknowledge and let Saeed and let our brothers in Bearded Villains East Anglia know that we are with you and we are thinking of you, and we will continue to do so in the future. So prayers and good thoughts going to you guys. Absolutely. I did want to give some acknowledgments to some of the people who are chiming in and are joining us here on our Instagram, or I'm sorry, on our live stream on YouTube. Unfortunately for me, part of the reason I was a little bit late this evening was because suddenly, of course, Murphy's Law being what it is, chimes in and decides that he's going to not let my monitor work correctly. So I'm reading all these comments on the little tiny, tiny screen, not the very large one that's sitting right in front of me. So that's a little bit more difficult. But I do want to say hi to Jess. I want to say hi to who we got in the house here. We got Gator, Slam's in the house. Hopefully I'm not going to miss anybody that's here as early. Jacob, how you doing? Irishman is here from Ohio. How you doing, buddy? It's really difficult for me to read some of these names. I'm sorry, so I will apologize in advance for that. But I do appreciate those of you who are here early, checking in the live stream, that you are here. That does mean a lot to me. So I had a couple of things come up this past week, and I wanted to acknowledge them to let you guys know and pass on that information to you, because I've decided to kind of branch out with the podcast a little bit and and to be able to change formats a little bit. This podcast is very kind of regimented usually, and so I have a very specific path. We have an interview or 2 interviews or whatever it is, and I just go with the flow specifically in a very regimented manner for the podcast. But I also wanted to take advantage of, with our COVID pandemic and everybody staying at home, I wanted to find a way that I could also do some other information and pass on some things. So to that end, I wanted to pass along that there is a new schedule that is coming through, and I'll try to bring that up on the monitor for everybody if I can. Unfortunately, let's see. We've got some issues here. And try to, whoops, that's not the one.
Sun is coming up.
Well, we're going to bring it. That's the morning show song. See, technical issues going on right now on our live stream. I'm going to try to bring this up and let you guys see our calendar. We have a schedule now. I have a schedule for the podcast. And if I can get this to work for me here. Let's see. Unfortunately, I can't see with my monitors, so I'm having issues here. And will this bring it up? Nope. That will not bring it up either. Okay, so anyway, I will post on my Instagram later. So what we have is we have a new show coming out on Mondays and Wednesday mornings, and it is the mid-morning super awesome Facebook live stream show. And it is a half-hour show on Mondays and Wednesdays where we get a chance to talk about some news events of the day, different things going on in the BV world or otherwise. But it's also a chance for me to spell out and say thank you to specific people, and also to recognize some of our villains who have patched up in the past week. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'll be able to acknowledge the ones that come through from our main BV page that have patched up in some way, shape, or form, from villain to member to any of the other patches that we get. And I'll be able to go through those, congratulate those guys, and it's just a fun time. So Mondays and Wednesdays from normally it's from 10 o'clock Central Time. So 10 o'clock Central, Mondays and Wednesdays. And then on Tuesday night, we do the Instagram Live for No Good Reason, which is on Instagram, obviously, and that is at 9 o'clock Central. Instagram Live for No Good Reason is just simply a place for us to just vent. We have no format whatsoever. I just come on live and we chit-chat. I'll bring some people in, brought a couple brothers in live to have some chit-chat time with us on Instagram Live last week, and we'll probably do that in the coming weeks as well. But it's just a good time for us to talk to everybody else out there. So we have a lot of fun with the Instagram Live. And then we have our live stream on Friday nights, which is where you're at right now. So you're either listening to this later on any one of the major podcast platforms, or you are here live with us right now on the YouTube, as we say. And we do have a handful of people chiming in, so I do appreciate you guys for being here. I apologize for the technical issues I'm having tonight. For some reason, Murphy's Law is tearing me up. I wish I had a better answer for that tonight. So, none of my overlays are working with me right now. If you want to, I do want to pass on real quick. If you want some merchandise, some shirts, patches, pins, all that fun stuff, you can go out to the website, and that is theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. Theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. And you can find the store there, shirts, patches, and pins. I am placing an order for the next order of shirts within the next 24 hours. So if you are interested in those shirts, I'm wearing one myself right now, And there have been several people that have received their shirts in the last week saying that they are awesome. So if you want one, grab them, get out there, theheartofavillain.simplecast.com, and that's where you'll find that information. Let's see if I can bring this guy up here. And that's not going to work for us. Okay. All right, guys. So what I want to do real quick here is I want to introduce our brothers from the Bearded Villains of Wyoming. Now, our Bearded Villains of Wyoming chapter has been around since I believe they chartered last month, but they've only been around for a few weeks now, and they are led by two gentlemen, Jeff and Andy. They have got their minds right. They are ready to go whenever this pandemic passes, and they've got some really good ideas. Not a whole lot of planned information that we can offer, but I will tell you that, and we mentioned this in the interview already, so there will be people asking. They do not have a logo that has been put out yet to the public, and they do not have any merchandise yet to the public. That's all coming in the future. So don't ask about that, but definitely go out to Instagram and check them out. Look for the Bearded Villains of Wyoming. So I'm going to play the interview right now that I did earlier this week with Jeff and Andy from the Bearded Villains of Wyoming. Hello and welcome. This is BP from Bearded Villains of Indiana with the Heart of a Villain. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with two gentlemen who are the new captain and co-captain of a brand new chapter here in the BV community in the United States. From the Bearded Villains of Wyoming, I've got the captain, Jeff, and the co-captain, Andy. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Great, and you?
Pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing really well. Take two. We'll talk about that later behind the scenes, but this is good. So you guys are a really new chapter as a whole. You guys aren't necessarily new members to the BV, brand new members to the BV community, but you guys have become a new chapter here in Wyoming. And I'm interested, and I think everybody else is interested all the time when we have a new chapter that starts up, exactly how, because it seems like that actual journey is a little bit different for everybody. And sometimes people start out in another chapter and move over to a chapter. Sometimes people start out fresh and just kind of work themselves through things with the intent of having a new chapter on their own. So let's start with you, Jeff. Can you tell everybody how you started out with BV and how it's led you to being the captain now of a brand new chapter in Wyoming?
Yeah, back in 2016, I was just looking around and I happened to come across Demo. Facebook page, and he's down there in BVRM, and I reached out to him and was talking with him and seen what all they were doing, and I thought that was pretty cool. All of them got bearded guys getting together doing stuff, just to, whatever they call it, show that bearded guys aren't actually all evil, and and plus, you got tattoos and whatnot. We're not all bad guys, and I thought that was pretty cool what they were doing, so I decided to join. Like I said, it was in 2016, and I was part of them, and it was crazy because theirs is in Colorado, which is 7 hours from where I'm at.
Yeah.
And South Dakota's closer, but I guess Colorado's the one that was for Wyoming. So, and then, like I said, we didn't have hardly but 2 or 3 people here and there throughout the whole state, and it was just here recently we started adding more people, which is awesome.
Yeah, so you actually started out then, were you actually a full-blown member going up through the ranks and getting your villain patch through a Colorado chapter then?
Yeah, because we just got our seal this year.
Okay.
So I was part of that down there for the whole time.
Okay. So moving over to you, Andy, as co-captain, where did you start out and how did your journey start?
Well, ironic as it is, I met a friend on TikTok. David Arias out of Southern California. He's actually a member down there. So I kept seeing him post the swords and knife and top hat, and I picked his brain to see what it was. And he mentioned it was a worldwide bearded men community that stand up for each other. So seeing that I lead a men's group here in Cheyenne, I was interested and wanted to make sure, that there's other brothers out there that could support me. And come to find out, there's brothers all over the world that stand by each other through this. So it's been amazing. Started last January as a hopeful, and now I'm a co-captain, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that journey's quick, but it happens. It's been faster for some people, so I completely understand where you're coming from. Now, did you actually start out then within another chapter, or did you just work yourself through things? Since Wyoming's new, did you start yourself out with as somebody else's chapter originally as well?
I actually started in BVRM. I talked to
Okay.
Taryn and John Busher out of BVRM. Those guys are the ones that mentored me.
Gotcha.
And then as soon as we got started working up into the realms of getting our own chapter still, that's when we split off. And now that we have several other villains here in Wyoming, it's been a helpful point to move us along.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, guys, I know Wyoming. I'm not super familiar with Wyoming, the state of. I mean, I know where it's at, and I can find it on a map. Um, but explain a little bit about the size of Wyoming and how many guys you have. How centrally located are they to where you're at? Are you calling Cheyenne kind of home base right now, or where are you guys spread out to?
Yeah, most of our guys are all down there in Cheyenne. I'm the only one up here in Gillette, it's not too far from Cheyenne. It's about a 3.5 hour drive for me, which is a lot closer than what it was for me to the Colorado one, which was 7 hours. So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice. We decided, just since there's so many people in Cheyenne, that would be our home base.
Very cool. Very cool. So you as the captain, you actually have to make the longest drive of anybody right now.
Well, it's not too bad. You get out of your house, and Wyoming, it's so far apart from everything. So, you just want to get out of your head for a little while. It's a good drive. You can get out and think about what you want to think about as you're driving down there and not worry about anything.
What are the speed limits like in Wyoming?
85 on the interstate.
Oh my gosh.
If you get caught doing anything over.
If you get caught, I like that. So Andy, you have a big group of guys then that are pretty close to you, so it's easy to get together then.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty nice. There's about 3 of them that I went to school with, so we can walk that journey with each other. So growing up as young adults now into manhood, brotherhood with BV, it's pretty cool. But yeah, they're the ones that are here. We have Greg Daniela, Jason Kilmer, Will Luna, Adrian Martinez, Jeremy Martinez, and we have a couple of hopefuls here in Cheyenne too that hopefully we get them on track and they jump on board with us.
Yeah, that would be great. That's a lot of growth already, just as a new chapter. How many guys do you have now on your roster?
We have 9 right now, 9 patched.
And then how many hopefuls do you have?
We have 3 working on 4.
Wow, that is a lot that's larger than some established chapters that have been around for a little bit. So that's great growth for you guys.
Well, especially since we're so spread out. Wyoming's spread out like no other compared to other states.
Yeah, I looked at a map and I just was like, man, it's for us here like in northern Indiana. For me, I can drive like 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm next to. I'll hit everybody in the northern part of my state, and I can just roll down the street like 15 minutes, and I'll be able to have dinner with 4 or 5 guys. But and the guys down in central Indiana that are where my chapter is actually based out of, is that they can 15 minutes for any one of them, and they're with 15 guys. So we're quite spoiled, but it's funny, every time I listen to these guys that are, in your shoes, that are driving 3-4 hours just to meet up because they're so interspersed throughout their state. It's I think it's very humbling to show us that there's nothing, we have no roadblocks in front of us to get a meetup together. That's for sure.
Correct.
So Andy, you mentioned real quick, you're part of another men's group or something. What's that all about?
I attend a Christian church here in Cheyenne. We have a men's group called Men in Leadership, and it's just a bunch of dudes that are crazy for Jesus, or they've been going through hard times, divorce, single dads, any shape of any walk of this world. They're more than welcome to. And we meet every Wednesday night, which kind of sucks because we're going through this whole COVID thing that we're not able to. That was my outlet, was going to actually be with these guys, and since we can't do that, we kind of struggled. But we have technology these days that we're able to video chat like we are now, so It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. So leadership and mentorship is a big thing for you.
Yes.
You can utilize those outlets here within the BV community. That's pretty cool. Jeff, tell me a little bit about yourself. Let everybody get to know you a little bit better that doesn't already know you. What can you tell us about you?
I just mainly say to myself, and I work out at the coal mine, so I, push a lot of dirt, haul a lot of dirt. It's not very exciting, but it's something. It's crazy.
That's hard work.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's multi-million-dollar pieces of toys we get to play with, and they're not little either.
No, we've got I don't know if it's I'm not going to presume to know anything about the coal mining industry, but I know that we've got a brother in our Southern Indiana chapter that did that for several years, and he tell us some stories sometimes too. But it's funny, you have for those of you who are not watching on the live stream on YouTube that are just listening to the podcast, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy here we have. With Jeff, the captain, has a beautiful flowing white beard, and Andy has the very, very dark very dark beard. But I'm assuming, Jeff, that when you'd be underground that white beard changes colors, doesn't it?
No, ours is all open pit.
Is it really?
Yeah,
okay.
There's no underground up here.
Oh, wow.
There's I think there's 14 coal mines up here in Campbell County. That's why they call us the energy capital of the world. We produce most of the coal that does a lot of electricity around here.
Wow.
And with everything shut down, it's kind of hurting us too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know the mines here, they've the coal guys, they've lost a lot of jobs down here. But they're underground here, so
yeah.
But at least you get to see the sunlight then.
Yeah, and the stars.
The stars. So how I know you're trying to build up and kind of find your way as captain and co-captain of a new chapter. You guys take your pick. Which one of you wants to take this? Maybe Jeff as the captain. But what's your plans right now? I mean, I know you're kind of up in the air right now as far as what you can do as a chapter. But do you guys have any organizations near and dear to your heart there that you want to try and partner with, or different other organizations you want to help out with?
Yeah, I mean, Andy knows more about some of this stuff than I do because he's like part of that men's group and whatnot. Up here, we have another group up here that kind of ruined it for other bearded guys. So I can get along with them and we can do stuff together up here. But it'd probably be easier if them guys down there helped out with the stuff for me, and then I could run down there instead of me trying to set up something up here because there's only me up here for right now.
Okay. Well, as a chapter, though, I mean, I guess are we looking? Have you already started developing? Maybe Andy would be better to answer that. Developing some partnerships with any organizations there?
Well, cool thing is there's a group here in town that I'm actually president of. It's called One Reach, and we serve our local homeless and less fortunate every second and fourth weekend of the month. So seeing that other bearded villains within the community of brotherhood, I see a lot of charity type work. And that is one thing that I'm passionate about is our homeless here in town. So that's going to be one thing. One of our other patched members, Jason Kilmer, he's actually reached out to one of the banks to see about getting a nonprofit, so how we can navigate with that. But there's also Habitat for Humanity. We're going to try to get with that one. That one's pretty big here in Cheyenne, and it's also starting to extend outside of the city limits. So that would be a good one for us.
Yeah.
We're still pretty close knit with the Colorado guys. BVRM, they're our foundation. So that's where we came from, and we're still going to try to partner with them as much as possible.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, though. And you guys will, I'm sure you'll find, you'll find your way, and you'll just develop natural partnerships with organizations that some of your guys are, have some sort of an allegiance to. I know that one organization, I don't know, I wish I would have thought to look it up in advance, but if you like helping children, I've been a big proponent. There's here in Indiana, one of our guys down in the central part of the state keyed us into an organization called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And I know that they actually started out west, and it's such a cool organization that virtually takes nothing but your time to help out, and such an incredible impact because it's just building beds. And
Right.
they have have you heard of the organization before? I don't know.
We heard some. I've heard something along the lines of that, and that would be something that's beneficial because we have several Indian reservations here in the state. So that would be huge for them because I know that the Indian community, the Native American community, struggles with that type of, they're facing that demographic of homelessness and poverty. So that would be actually a good thing for us to touch on.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know. I know you can just go out online and find out where the local chapters are at and they're always trying to find new chapters to start up. Just like you're leading another community program or community organization out there. They're always looking for new people to start up a new local chapter of that organization. But it's such a rewarding organization. So if you can find one, that's one I always turn people toward if you can find it. So let's get real quick. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing. Sweet.
Okay. So if you can, tell me a little bit about, I know it's a little different in different parts of the country right now with the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm just curious what things are like for you guys in Wyoming, what kind of stringent, rules that you guys are having to obey by, or are the stay-at-home regulations tough for you guys, or is it just kind of do what you want there in Wyoming for you guys?
I mean, they have their rules where you're supposed to stay home, but you can't always stay at home. You got to go get stuff and whatnot. And we always joke around in Wyoming, they say social distancing 6 foot. We always say 6 foot's a little too close for us. We're so spread out, But
that is good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as long as we're not out messing around with a huge group of people, they don't say much to us.
Good.
So it makes it a little easier.
Yeah, I bet. Around. Yeah, that's kind of the way it is. It's interesting to hear in some of the other areas. I don't know if last week when I was speaking with somebody who's actually, down in South America, it sounds like it's down there. You can't even leave you can't even be in your yard after a certain hour of the day. You have to be in the house, and they're that restrictive about some things. So here in America, we're getting away with some things I think that other countries aren't, which is okay, but I guess it has some other issues as well. So we were talking a little bit off the air, guys. I know you have some plans to release, because this is going to be something I'm sure the second that the podcast hits, and I wanted to cover it even though I already know the answer, but because I know the second the podcast hits, people are going to be amping up and asking you questions about it, looking for answers. You don't have a patch yet to release because you're still working on all the details of your of logo and all that stuff. So stuff will be coming eventually down the road, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, we have a couple ideas. We just want to make sure everybody in the chapter is in agreement with what it is before we start doing anything.
Yeah.
And then we'll send it off and get it all approved and whatnot.
Good. All right. Well, I wanted to just cover that because I know the second that the podcast hits this week, I'm going to receive some questions, and you guys are too going to be saying, "Where's the patches? Where's the patches?" So we've got all sorts of crazy patch people within BV organization. So
we also have the IG page and the Facebook page too up and running. So if anybody wants to reach out and touch it, speak to us, ask us questions, call us up, do whatever. We do have those up and running. So
absolutely. And just so you guys know, the captain, again, his name is Jeff. He goes on Instagram by Gray Dragon 77 on Instagram, and that's the captain of the Bearded Villains, Jeff. Gray Dragon 77 on Instagram, and then the co-captain is Andy, and that is _bearded tat _ on IG _bearded tat, all one word, bearded tat _ on Instagram. Co-captain of Wyoming, and then do you know offhand what the Wyoming Instagram page is? I forgot to check that out before I got on with you guys, as far as if it's spelled, if it's all one word or what the IG handle is for it. So
it is bearded _villains _ Wyoming.
There we go. Okay. So guys, find them, make sure you like them. If you didn't already like them as people, you need to like them as a chapter and people now. We need to make sure we're networking with everybody. These guys, I'm sure, have some good stories and can learn from us, but we can also learn from them with the starting of a new chapter for sure. Guys, as the leaders of the new chapter, I'll just end our little conversation today with this little bit. I know we've gotten a little bit of tidbit about learning from you, what you guys are thinking, where you want to go. We could get a little bit more in depth, but unfortunately, right now there's no way to know what you guys can do as a chapter. We have no idea how long these restrictions are going to be. So I definitely want to come back and hit you guys up once you're able to make a name for yourselves and figure out what it is you guys want to be able to do with a chapter. But I'm curious now, you've both been in for a little bit of time. Now you're leading the chapters. Jeff, let's start with you. Do you have any words of advice or anything, wise words of wisdom that we can pass on to some of our younger guys that are coming up? It doesn't have to be your chapter, but any place within BV that you can pass on to our guys.
Yeah, the main thing is if you guys, anybody has any problems, man, reach out to anybody. It doesn't matter if they're in your group or not, man. We're all here to help each other out and work through this stuff, whether it's the COVID-19 stuff or just you want to BS, man, just reach out to somebody, your chapter, another chapter. That's how I got to know my chapter or the other chapter when I first started. I reached out to them. I didn't know a lot of things about this. It's cool, and always be out there to help others, whether it's talking or even any ideas on what we should do with the charities or any of that stuff.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. What about you, Andy? Let's get some wise words. Didn't mean to put you on the spot here.
No. My biggest thing is I was always told, and I was taught too, especially through men in leadership, is iron sharpens iron. Men need men. So if you're going through anything, just reach out. And like Jeff was saying, reach out to another man. We all battle the same thing. It's just a matter of how much pride you're willing to let go. We're fueled on pride when we should be fueled on respect and giving that love out towards everybody else. So my biggest thing is just make sure if you see somebody down and out through messages, because that could be taken several different ways, hit them up, ask them what's going on. Just say, hey, man, thinking of you. And it goes a long way. So.
Absolutely, it does. You're not kidding there. And one of the things I've been telling our guys, and I've been saying in every podcast since we've been hit by the epidemic and everybody had to be socially distanced, I've been telling people that even though we have to stay socially distanced, we need to make sure that we're reaching out to our brothers, the ones that we don't hear from, especially to make sure that everybody's not that they're not having issues themselves. As I've said many times, I think that the pandemic making us stay at home with all the stay-at-homers it can be cathartic for some people because they're by themselves if they want to be a homebody, but it's terrifying for other people where they're not able to have the regular communication with people, and so they start to immediately go into like a depressed state. So it's extremely important, I think, for all of us to make sure we're reaching out to our brothers and making sure that they know we're thinking of them just as much as they are us. So, guys, hey. Jeff and Andy, you guys are the perfect people to be leading that chapter. It sounds like you guys are great leaders, and sounds like Wyoming's off to a great start. So I appreciate you guys taking a few minutes out to talk to me. I do want to check back with you guys in a few months once everything hits the ground running and you guys can get some stuff underneath your belt and find out how things are going for you guys for sure.
Right.
All right, guys, take care, stay safe, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Those were the captain and the co-captain from the Bearded Villains of Wyoming, a new chapter here in the States. And I hope it kind of gave you a little glimpse into those guys. Wyoming's in good shape, and they've got two guys running things from the ground up, from the get-go, the very beginning of this chapter. And so I'm really excited to find out how things go for them once this pandemic hits, once it's done, and we can just move on and get back out there to doing what Bearded Villains do, and that's changing lives. So I'm really excited about seeing what those guys can do out there in Wyoming. So everybody, I do have a little bit of I do want to cover this. I mentioned this earlier in the week when I was talking during the mid-morning show. I believe it was on Monday or Wednesday, but I did want to just touch on this real quick because I think it's cool, and we need to support our brothers when they do things like this. But our brothers in Tennessee went down to help out a tornado-ravaged area. They know what it's like because just before Nash Vegas hit, we had that. They had that issue down there, and we had Bearded Villain brothers from all over coming into town for Nash Vegas that went to help out with some of the relief efforts down there in Tennessee. So recently, our Smoky Mountain chapter, some of the areas down there by them were affected by tornadoes, and it was nice to see our brothers. If you look out on the Facebook page and possibly even the Instagram page for the Bearded Villains of the Smoky Mountain chapter or the Tennessee chapter, there's some neat photos of our brothers from Tennessee helping out, and I'm scrolling through them now here on the live stream for you to see a few photos that I've taken off the Facebook page from Tennessee, and just very cool to see, again, our brothers going out of our way to help out other brothers and make sure that we can help out with those recovery efforts. So congratulations. Thank you very much to our brothers down there for doing what needs to be done, which we always expect to do, but it's just nice to see. So again, thank you guys for being there for your brothers in the Smoky Mountain chapter. Okay, so we have a surprise guest, and even the people that are the devout listeners to this show have no idea who this is, except for one person who is the guest. And so it'll be funny to get their reaction when they hear about this, but I'm excited to bring in a brother. He's an amazing brother of ours, and he's into all sorts of different things. And, well, I'll just play the video and let it surprise everybody who's listening. But here we go, one of our surprise guests, and we're going to get to know a brother of ours that many of you might know, but just not know that well. I have a very special guest today, and there's a specific reason why I wanted to wait until April to bring him in for an interview, and you'll find out why in just a few minutes. But my very special guest today, and we want to get to know this man a little bit more. It's Puzzle from the Bearded Villains of Orlando. He goes by BV_puzzle_man_BFA on Instagram. Would you please help me welcome Puzzle from Bearded Villains Orlando? Puzzle, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing great. How about yourself, sir?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous, man. Man, you are such, I'm not going to try and embarrass you or anything, but you are such a cool dude. I was so proud to finally meet you. I've been talking to you on Instagram, but being able to finally meet up with you and talk to you when we were down in, down for me, up for you in Tennessee at Nash Vegas, to finally get a chance to meet you. You are one of these cats that is just crazy involved in so many different aspects of what the Bearded Villains are. And so I wanted to bring you in, as you know, we've talked a little bit off air, but I wanted to bring you in a little bit to talk about the Bearded Villains, but most importantly, we're going to get to in a few minutes your connection with autism and the fact that April is Autism Awareness Month. So we'll get into that in just a few minutes, because your story is awesome. It's incredibly unique and such a cool, uplifting story for people. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, let's get into some of the Bearded Villain stuff you're into. You are a member of the Bearded Villains of Orlando, and
That's correct.
Just one look at your Instagram page shows how crazy active you are, just, not only in your chapter, but outside your chapter. So can you give us just kind of a little bit of a lowdown on the kinds of things you're doing behind the scenes, working with other chapters and some things? I know there's some secrets out there we don't want to let out, but anything that you can talk about.
Okay, well, I try to get involved as much as I can with however many chapters I can. I made it a point after my first meet to reach out to all these people that, were like, oh my God, I follow you on Instagram and I see you in this and that and the other. And I've never met them before. And it was such a joy for me to interact with these brothers that I took it upon myself that I was going to visit at least every chapter that was there at the ESV at the time. And I made it to a few of them. Also, with that meet, made a connection with a couple of brothers, more so than others, of course, because you keep, talking to them and on a daily basis. Like, for example, David Ramsey, Papa, those are guys that Papa, guys that I talk on a daily basis. And I've gone to their, I haven't been to Indiana yet, but that's my next one.
You'll get there.
Because I already, Gator and yourself and Popeye and Brent, the guys that I talk to on a daily basis, and that's what fuels me, to that interaction with brothers, and also the things that they get involved in. Like, I was amazed at, your plunge about the way your brothers went ahead and took this one person that was trying to do the plunge for so many years, and nobody had even asked, hey, you want to just go ahead and can we pick you up and take you? Like, to me, dude, I was in tears for a good 20 minutes just thinking about how great I would have felt that would have been me. And of course, how honored I am to know these guys and call them brothers,
Absolutely.
With stories like that, it just kind of drives me to them. Like, for example, like our Florida chapters are super tight.
Right.
Miami, Tampa, Swampside, Emerald Coast, Jacksonville. We always try to hit each other's, whatever's, birthday parties, engagements, anything. So seeing that in Florida, also, there's a bunch of chapters. So I figure I like to get involved with as many as I can. I've also made a connection with the South American brothers because their English is not that great. Right. So once I got asked for translation, just kind of, you kind of get close to that brother because, he needs help and he wants to do, and you get involved in what they do. So that helps me understand their world, because even though I am Latin, it's just a different, every city and every, state in South America has different cultures and different things and different struggles that they go to, Yeah. And for example, like, Argentina is close, Colombia is close. Well, actually everybody's close, but to see what they do to meet up with brothers just kind of told me, like spoke to me in a way of like, well, if they can do it, I mean, some of these guys even take a plane.
I know.
To go to a meet in their country.
In their country, yeah, it's amazing.
So if they can do that, if they can do that for just a meet, and literally it's just a meet. It's just, let's talk about elections, let's talk about charity,
right? And
that's it. If they can do that, of course I can do that.
Yeah.
So that kind of inspired me to go ahead and reach out to more chapters as I can. Of course, as I started to get fuel into the whole. Meeting brothers and going up to brothers, we get this stuff going on, and it just kind of put brakes on a lot of things. But we got some plans. We got some plans on things.
Yeah. You're really tight though with not just. I mean, you're really tight with some brothers. Just, I mean, do you want to? And maybe we don't want to go into specifics about. You're really tight though with brothers, obviously in Puerto Rico because that's where you're originally from, but also all over Florida. You said South America. But are there any others you want to talk about just real quick? I mean, maybe you can't. That you're friendly.
Well, going back to Puerto Rico. Yeah, going back to Puerto Rico. I was blessed to have them make me an honorary member of the chapter.
Oh wow!
Something that I always wanted. Yeah, because being Puerto Rican, of course, we're a little proud, if you will. And that was always something that I wanted.
Yeah.
Oh, just a smidge.
Just a smidge.
And just charity work, man. Leg work. Helping them from my bedroom. Mm-hmm. I didn't think that was going to be something that they would take into consideration. And the co-captain is like, "Listen, man, you've earned this." And I got this patch in the mail, and I'm like, "Holy crap, that's a members only patch. What am I doing with this?" It's like, "Oh, you're a member." I'm like, "You kidding me, right?" Yeah, of course, after my son's diagnosis with autism, I'm a big softie. I grew a heart and I cry for everything. Now, everything honorable like that, it just brings me to tears.
Sure.
Getting close to the people from South America, I was able to be in a group. We have a different chat in a different form. It's called WhatsApp.
Oh, yeah.
We have a chat there for Latin America. And most of the captains and scouts and sergeants and lieutenants are there, and I was able to make a good bond with them. And also, because of what I do, they kind of wanted to know more about, how could they approach it, because some of the members have kids with autism that just don't know what to do. South America is a different monster altogether.
Sure.
So I started to get involved in that, and with that, I was it kind of, I went from being just a regular guy that, we talk to on a daily basis to, let's bring this guy into these other chats that, because he's got something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And we're wanting to bring up all these people, all these chapters, and we need different people with different opinions and also different views, different from different places to teach these guys that are wanting to raise flags in their countries.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like? What's your perspective? What's mine? What's this guy's and the other guys? So there's about 4 or 5 chapters that are in the works right now that we're just waiting on, them to be patched or the seal to be approved or simple things like that. But,
Very cool.
with this Corona thing, everything's kind of like on a halt.
Right.
But yet we still sit there on a daily basis and we talk to brothers, and it's crazy because I have like 30 chats going at the same time, which right now my phone is going nuts.
I
But
bet.
it's me. Like I have to have that organized chaos. If I don't have that in my life, like I can't work.
Right. Sure.
And once again, just trying to help out those that, like for example, like the kids with autism that don't have a voice. These guys in these countries that, have minimal things, but yet are so passionate about what we do and they want to be involved.
Yeah.
They don't know how to get around it or how to go by it. And I'm blessed to be in that group and be able to help these guys and speak for them as well,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's such a neat thing because obviously anybody that's as active and has been around for any amount of time within Bearded Villains like you have been, you want to help out. You have a heart. There's a heart for it, for helping and for helping to change other people's lives. And a part of that even goes deeper with your connection with autism. But it's such a neat thing that you're able to, and I think part of it is because of your background and the fact that you are able to speak a language,
right,
and you have a commonality with these folks that they want to be in your shoes where you are and have these, the Bearded Villains in their areas. In such a, it's just a
right.
very cool thing for you to be able to be a part of that. So I just wanted to just kind of touch on that for a second because I think it's such a neat thing that you are able to have. It's not to say that you have your hand in it, but you do. You're there and you're helping to guide some of these guys, some of these future chapters that will be future leaders within the Bearded Villain community. So I just wanted to. I think that's something that needed to be noted. Whether you wanted it to be or not.
Thank you.
Because I think it's just very it's very admirable that outside of your own chapter, you're trying to set forth an example for future BV generations generations to come. So I thought that was important to say. So let's get into this month. We're coming up on the end of Autism Awareness Month here in April. And this is the real crux of why I wanted to get you in here, because you have such a deep connection with autism. And I know there may be some people that know of you that really don't know your connection to autism and exactly where your drive and your passion comes from for autism. So if you could just speak for a bit about your connection to autism and why it's such a passionate, issue for you.
Okay, so
take a deep breath.
It all started. No, I'm kidding. Well, anyhow, as a kid, like I always had these. Yeah. As a kid, I had all these like quirks, the way I played, I enjoyed being by myself a lot. And I was raised by my grandmother who, had 10 kids and, was a single mom. And it was kind of difficult for her to see me want to be by myself when you have, 8 other kids in the house. So she, started to work with me and, teach me how to interact with others and how to look people in the face, which sometimes I still have an issue with, but just all these things that just thought she thought they were normal, but she just didn't care. She's like, I love you regardless of how you are and what you do and the quirks and whatever. But you're gonna be this guy, and I want you to be this guy, and that kind of like gave me strength to like overcome all these things. And to, like, for example, like today, every time I have to go out, I need at least an hour to get ready because I have to mentally prepare myself to go out the door. And just back then there wasn't any diagnosis for anything or anybody. So I just thought it was just a normal thing. Grew up, married, kids. As I was talking to my brother, he tells me, I think something's wrong with my son. His son was like 4 or 5 at the time, and I hadn't seen him in forever because he was military, and he was stationed overseas. And then he went to Iraq, and as he comes back from Iraq, they moved to Florida, and I'm more close to him at the time. He comes back, he's got PTSD, like he can't listen, hear noises and all these things, and I'm talking to him like, dude, I can relate with you because like loud noises sometimes, like I want to run, and it's not because of the scare factor of it, is because it just resonates in your head, and it doesn't go away.
Sure.
And he's like, yeah, man, that's crazy. But on that note, I wanted to talk to you about Nelson, which is my nephew. I think there's something wrong with him, and I'm like, what? So I hadn't. Because he was always away, like I'd never had, or I was away, hadn't met Nelson. So I go up to Nelson and I start to interact with him, and I noticed there's a lot of things that he does that none of the other kids did, of course. So we start to get help, and we found out that the way to diagnose kids with autism, like I just kind of dabbled in it a little bit to a friend, and some of the things that I read was some of the things that Nelson had. So eventually we came about going to a neurologist, and they diagnosed him with autism, of course. And it was just a little easier to cope with him now, because it was just a lot for him coming back with PTSD, and, they have 4 other kids, and, it was just too much for him. So, it was just easier, now you have therapies, you have schools, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, my brother has a friend, and his friend was also son is diagnosed with autism, and I'm starting to help him out, trying to get help and where to go and who to talk to, as my ex at the time was pregnant, and our son was just doing the same things as Nelson was doing. So of course the normal thing was to just go ahead and ask for a referral. We go to a neurologist. And we go ahead and get diagnosed. And as we're sitting there, the doctor's like, I want to talk to Dad. And I'm like, okay. Like in my head, I'm like, what did I break? Did I touch something? Did I do something? Because I was sitting there, I'm listening to everything that she's saying, but I'm like fixing things and, putting things in like the magazines by date, and like just stuff that we do, quirky things.
Sure.
And she's like, have you ever been diagnosed? And I'm like, for what? Of course I know where we are, but I'm trying to like not believe that she's trying to diagnose me.
Right.
And of course she says, well, yeah, you have the traits, you do this and this and that and the other. And I mean, you're an adult now. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you're able to, like you have a family and you have a normal job and blah, blah, blah. You're one of the high functioning ones, and, but so, you are in the spectrum.
What was that like?
So with that being said, like,
drop.
to be honest with you, like on the drive home, like now I have an answer for my son, but in the same sentence, I'm thinking, did I do this? Is this me?
Right.
Did I create another case? Does it get worse? Like what if he, like all these, because of course we never stop thinking.
Sure.
So all these things come, and of course, through research, and it's not a generic. It's not like you can, like, purposely,
right,
do that. It's just impossible. But we're still working on the whys, and the cases are getting even more. Like, for example, like about a year and a half ago, it was like 1 in 68. Now it's like 1 in 48. Like, It's just nuts, man.
Jeez.
Personally, I believe it has to do a lot with like the stuff that we take in, like our food sources, all these chemicals and stuff.
That's very
But
possible. Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
Well, what was that like though? I mean, it's a bomb. When I say bomb drop, for the doctor to tell you that, okay, now you have that moment where, okay, now you start to second guess. Did I? And thankfully you were able to quickly realize, okay, this isn't something that I passed on. But at the other on the other side of that too, it was probably like a little bit of a weight off your shoulders a little bit to realize
Yes,
this answers a bunch
yes.
of
It,
questions about who I've been my entire
a
life.
lot of things make sense at the time, dude. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, I can't believe, I should have thought about this from day one. But then again, like I said, it's not something that was very talked about then. We didn't have the proper technology, I guess, at the time. And it's just, my grandmother just never told me that I was different. She
Right.
always just said, you're just a little quirky, keep it going, go play. But the funny thing is, like, you're the first person that I tell about those thoughts that I had driving back,
Uh-huh.
and it lasted just to drive back. Like after I got home, like it all became, let's help, my boy Kaleo come out of it,
Mm-hmm.
because we'd like to think there's a magical cure, which is crazy, but it's a possibility in some cases. Like some kids are able to function, when they're not like, they're just in their world lost. And I found that if I involve, if I get, into his head somehow, I was able to make him come out and play with me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And, we started to get like all these helps and, all these therapies and all these government programs and dig into just everything really, and to the point to where, we were able to get him out that shell. And now he forget it. Now he's just he's a little brainiac, man. He just. I remember one day he asked me if I knew how many bolts are in the not Statue of Liberty, but the Eiffel Tower, Dad. And I'm like, I don't know. He gave me a number, and I was like, you're kidding me, right? He's like, no, look it up. So I looked it up. He was right.
Sure.
And mind you, he was like 4 years old.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, how do you know this? He's like, oh, I just asked Siri and Siri told me.
Uh-huh.
And then I looked at his iPad, and he was actually he was listening to all these audio of how it was created and why. And I'm like, he's 4 years old.
Yeah.
How am I going to keep up with him? Like, how am I going to feed him, mentally? Like, I can't, I'm an old man,
No, but that's what technology will
but,
do.
it keeps me on my toes.
Yeah,
of course.
that's a huge, and I think one of the things that, and I think autism is such an interesting. I I don't even know how to describe it other than just to say it's autism, because I don't think of it as,
Yeah.
some people will say, use the word disease, and I don't like that. I don't think it is. But some people will call it, some other thing, but it's just autism is autism. And I think that for the longest time, as we grew up, I know when I grew up, if you heard that word, you thought of it as some bad thing, of course. And that's just through ignorance and not, growing up, not knowing about it.
Yeah, you get two things when like, when I started with this. The one was, is it contagious? Look,
Uh-huh.
is my kid gonna get it by playing with yours? Like,
Sure.
I just thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
Or, oh, Rayman. I saw the one with Rayman.
Yeah. Suddenly I know everything there is to know about.
Okay.
Yeah. Suddenly I know everything
Great,
there is to
you're an
know about
expert.
about autism, right? Yeah. And then you quit. And then, but what's neat though is it's someone like yourself that is very engaging, and you've had to work at that, and I understand that. But you are very approachable, and you're very educated and knowledgeable about the topic. Is you're able to have a conversation with somebody and explain there's no two cases of autism that are the same. Everyone
Right.
everyone is
Right.
different with it. Some are nonverbal, some are what they would call highly functioning, and it doesn't. And there's such a wide gamut in between that everybody needs to be treated differently, but you don't treat them differently because of it, because each person's an individual. And so, and that's one of the things
Mm-hmm.
through special needs that I've also learned, through my own experience too. But it's interesting because my time on when I was in law enforcement for, the 20 years that I was in, when I first started out back in the early 90s, we were told, okay, this is somebody you might come across, and there might be somebody that's wandering around and seems lost, and and they may not say anything to you, so don't run up on them and grab their arm and say you're not listening to me. And that's basically the only way that
Right.
they knew how to deal with anybody that was autistic back then, at least how to tell emergency
Mm-hmm.
services how to deal with anybody. And it's nice to see that over time that's changed drastically, so that now there's full on training courses on, this can be autistic, this can be autistic, this can be, and it's not just one blanket term now, that people understand that there's such
Right.
a wide,
Right.
most people I think understand that. But it's neat to see in my talks with you. You just have such a unique perspective on it because of what you've been through, both personally and then also with other familial people, involved in it.
Right. So the way I deal with it, for example, like the way I interact with my kids, I call them my kids. They're not mine all, but I like to think so. Um, is that they're all different, correct? And it's funny because if you really think about us, for example, as adults, every adult is different. Like you have to approach a brother, or you can approach a brother in a certain way, but then you can't approach the brother that's right next to him the same way. Even siblings, for that matter. And that's the way. That's one of the things that helped me, understand myself and understand the way, you know, people work, for lack of better words, because we're all different, man.
Yeah.
Regardless of where we come from, where we live, where we stay, the culture, nationality, it doesn't matter. We're all different, but kind of the same when it comes to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to find a way to approach people. And for me, through college, like that became something of a challenge for myself. Like, how many cultures can I get involved with and see how they interact and how they live and just all these things. And that just helped me as an adult to deal with kids as well, and with adults, because in the BV community you have a lot of brothers who are like to joke around, some don't, some just some are more charity, some are more about the brotherhood. It just you just got to know how to fit into this whole scheme of things, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And your connection, I think, is so cool. I don't know how many people know this, and I didn't even know this until you told me earlier that your nickname was given to you,
Oh yeah.
through your connection with autism, and that's such a
Yeah,
cool
that's the
story.
funny thing.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
What I didn't tell you earlier, I think it was that when I was at that meet, I was talking to the parent because when I told the story, it was kind of like a AA per se kind of thing, like parents that wanted to understand
Uh-huh.
or wanted to come out and say that they acknowledge that the kid had autism, because that happens a lot. A lot of parents don't want to admit it, and kids go forever without services, and that's just sad. But as I was telling my story, the kids are in the room. They're not like at the round, table per se, but they're in the room.
Right.
And this kid just overheard me say, that I was, diagnosed. And the next time we come around, he's like, oh, my favorite guy's here. And I'm like, who? And he's like, you, Puzzleman. And I'm like, Puzzleman? He's like, yeah, that's what I'm going to call you. Because I've had gotten some help for him, and he was looking to find something to keep his mind occupied, and it was an iPad. And he told me, I'm calling you Puzzleman because you found a piece of the puzzle that was my iPad. So now I'm complete. That broke me, by the way.
Oh,
And everybody's, it was like, like the movie Finding Nemo, the mine.
Yeah.
It was everybody's like puzzle, and forget it. It was over. From that moment on, I've been called Puzzle
That
or
gives me the
Puzzleman for
chills.
the longest time in the world.
Just hearing that gives me the chills. And I know I already knew the story, but I mean, it just gives me chills to hear that. And that's such a cool thing that there was that connection there. And he said, and that kid said to you, you complete, basically you've completed me. That's gotta
Mind
be
you,
amazing.
this kid was inside his not on his iPad. He was inside his iPad, was not looking at me, but he was doing all these processes and all this. It's just, that's another thing about autistic kids, man. They cannot lie. They're just black and white. They're just as real as they come.
Yeah.
And that was a super compliment for me. Like I've always, everywhere I go, and they ask me the story of my name, I have to say it because it's just, what made it to begin with. And it's just something that's like that personal to me,
Such a cool story, man. Such a cool story. Especially that it was given to you in a circumstance like that, and it wasn't some, high school or college prank thing that ended up giving you a nickname. But that's amazing. I love that story.
Oh, I have those too.
Well, I understand. Yeah, but the one that you stick with, the one that's the most heartfelt, is the one that has an awesome, incredible story to it. So we were talking. Are you still? Is Beards for Autism? Is that something that's you mentioned that earlier to me off air? Is that something that we can promote a little bit?
Well, we have the support group.
Uh-huh.
And I say we because there's three of us. And that's where the BFA at the end of my long Instagram handle is.
Which is, by the way, it's BV_puzzle_man_BFA. There we go. Another plug.
Yeah. It was three of us and two of the guys, like one, for example, the guy that was like running the actual the Facebook web page or whatever. He just like stopped doing it. He just wanted to do a different thing. He was overwhelmed. He just got divorced. The kid's mom didn't want him to be involved in the kid's life, and it just kind of like fell off for a little bit. And then the other guy just disappeared for some reason. So right now, I'm the only one that has it, and I've been so busy that I haven't touched the page in that forever. But I do like, every so often just put information, like if I find some kind of, help or ways to uplift the community or stories, I just post them there. But it's not as active as it used to be. I kind of need to give it a little love here and there.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is a perfect format, though. I mean, maybe we can get somebody to give you a little boost if they need it, or if there's something that anybody else can help you out,
right,
in some way, shape, or form with Beards for Autism. If they want to help
I'll
involved, is there a way? What's the best way that somebody can contact you if they're interested?
Yeah, just reach me on Instagram or Facebook at that page.
Okay.
Awesome. Any way. That'd be great because honestly, it kind of needs a little love.
Okay, so Beards for Autism, they do have a Facebook page.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just that, Beards for Autism.
Okay. So everybody listening,
funny. I just remembered something while you mentioned that.
Yeah,
so, about 4 to 5 years ago, I get contacted by this guy, and I'm like, okay, Southerner, like I couldn't pronounce his name, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And the guy's like, man, I love your logo. I would love to be a part of it. Let's talk. And I'm like, sure, no problem. My Instagram got hacked, which by the way, I still haven't been able to recover it. So I had to make a new one, for that page. And, I was like, well, it would have been nice to reconnect with this guy. He seemed a little pumped about it. I kind of need it, blah, blah, blah. Another brother from New Mexico, when I just started fresh on BV, he's like, hey, man, I like your name. Is it autism related? I'm like, yes, and I told him the story. This is Rio from New Mexico.
Okay.
And he's like, well, there's a chat that we have for autistic parents, and you should join it, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, cool. So I reach out to the guy, and I'm looking at the name, and I'm like, man, that name sounds familiar. But everybody said Nick.
Yes.
So, it was Nick. So I'm talking to Nick, and we became good buds, and we're shooting ideas back and forth, and we're doing things in the page, and in the chat, and we're motivating parents, and we're getting parents, and we're talking, and it hits me, and I'm like, wait a minute, how do I know you? And he's like, bro, you're the Beards for Autism guy, right? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm the Bearded for Autism guy. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, right? He's like, we've been talking for 2.5 years.
Oh,
and
man.
I just realized that we had talked 4 years ago.
Oh, that's funny.
Which is funny. It blows my mind every time I think about it. But yeah, I who knows? I could have been an OG from BV if I would have kept talking to him, I guess.
Oh, that's crazy. Such a cool story, though. That's great. So Beards for Autism is on Facebook. Anybody that is not watching this broadcast right now, obviously you see his Instagram handle on the page, but if you are also wanting to reach out, you can hit him up on his Instagram handle. I'll give that again for anybody that's just listening on the actual podcast stream, which is BV_puzzle_man_BFA. But also you can reach out to him under the Beards for Autism Facebook page if you have any suggestions or if you want to reach out and help. He's located in Orlando, Florida, that general area. So obviously if you want to do something local with him, but I'm sure being really active in the autism community, he's everywhere, and he's got a footprint or at least a handprint out there somewhere in some way, shape, or form in the autism community.
Yeah.
So such a cool guy. Well, man, Puzzle, I keep wanting to go back to your other name that I know you said nobody calls you by. So
yeah, you can. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean,
that's okay.
I want people to know me, for me, in any form that I come,
Yeah.
Is it Hector? Is it Jay? Is it, Puzzle? Is it Puzzleman? I have another nickname, Pika, which is my grandmother gave me that as a kid. She said I had a little problem with my hands, Pica in Spanish means itch. So she said I was always getting into things, and that's what was my nickname. So
okay, well, you know what?
There you have it.
Kudos to her for realizing a long time ago that you might have had some quirkiness to you, but you weren't treated any differently because you are the man you are today and the thoughtful person that you are today because of the way that you were raised. So kudos to her for realizing that a long time ago, and great support system, and you've continued that going forward. So such a cool guy, man. Puzzle, I appreciate you reaching out and talking to me about this, and actually me reaching out and letting you come on, because I know sometimes doing interviews and things like this aren't easy for you, but this was an important one, and I think it's with autism awareness. You're kind of, by no means would you ever even claim yourself to be an expert, but you are kind of our go-to person for information. Autism related, it seems like, at least as far as I'm concerned. So I appreciate you coming on, and I can't wait to shake your hand and give you a hug again real soon. Hopefully when this is all over.
Hey, we have to do it, man. Yeah. You owe me.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you owe me.
You got something in the mail from me coming here soon anyway. So I appreciate you, man. Love you, and I will talk to you soon.
Love you more, man.
All right, talk to you.
Take care. Have a good one, bud.
Be safe.
All right, you too.
Guys, that was Puzzle. Man, what a dude. I did not expect, it's one of those interviews that you don't want to end. And I could talk to, anybody that's talked to Puzzle for more than 5-10 minutes, you know how it is. You can just talk to him forever. And when I told him about I wanted to get with him for the interview, he was all about it. He was hesitant just because he just doesn't do interviews. And he, that's just something that doesn't sit well with him. It's not easy for him, but I was really excited to get to talk to him, and that conversation could have just gone on for a couple hours. I had to cut it off at some point, but he's such an easy guy to talk to, and he's really, really important to the BV community, but also to the autism community. And so I'm really glad that we were able to sit down and have a talk, and you guys could hear from him, hear his story, and how autism became such an important part of his life. I do want to bring in a couple of comments here that have come up over the course of this podcast so far, which I think are really neat, kind of stand out things to bring up. And this one here is from our buddy Slam over there in Phoenix. And he says, man, I feel this so much, so much. I've grown up with the same questions, Puzzle. and I'm truly honored to call you my brother. Much love and respect. Such a cool thing, and that's what this is about. And that's one of the things I love about this podcast is that it brings everybody together in ways that we wouldn't necessarily sometimes see. And there's another one that came back up as well, and Gator was the wise wordsmith on this one, and he says to us, there are no extra pieces in the universe. Everyone is here because he or she has a place to fill, and every piece must fit itself into the big jigsaw puzzle. Such a cool thing. So, guys, I appreciate you guys chiming in and being a part of this podcast and being there to make some comments as we went through. That's really important, that to know that you're there and to know that you're willing to speak up in this format. So I do greatly appreciate that. And thanks again, Puzzle, for being there for me and letting me have a little interview with you. I do appreciate that. So, boys and girls, this is the time normally where I would bring up the calendar of events. And as you know, we have no calendar of events to speak of right now due to COVID-19. But I will say some of the things that I've left out in the past. I've just kind of blanketly said in the past that there are many events that have been canceled. Well, I decided to just go ahead and list what I know about the ones that I know about right now, and we'll take it from there. So far as I know, of course, we did hear that Goth and Beard was canceled. That was supposed to be May 1st through the 3rd. Also, May 30th, the Bearded Villains Welsh chapter had their 5th anniversary meet. Now, that was not canceled as of yet. It's just been postponed. So anybody that was planning on going to that for the BV Welsh chapter's 5th anniversary, stay tuned, because hopefully they will have some sort of date in the future once we know where everybody can be. I have not heard a full detailed list yet on the Great Lakes meet, June 5th and 6th, whether that was actually canceled or postponed, which one it was, but I will make sure to tell you as soon as I do know. The Bearded Villains London V5, their Villain Fest 5, June 13th, has been canceled as well, and so has the June 27th Beards for Bucko up in Canada. That has been canceled as well. I have not heard anything specifically about Manchester Beard July 31st, and of course the World Meet August 7th through the 9th. They're still pushing forward to hopefully get that thing up and running if we can make that work. So fingers crossed that we can get to a point where we can enjoy gathering again. That would be really nice for us to be able to do. So again, I do appreciate everybody who has been here on YouTube this whole time. We've gone a little bit longer than we normally have, but I think it was really important for us to do two things with this episode. One, acknowledge our brothers from Bearded Villains of Wyoming. It's neat when we have a new chapter pop up, and I wanted to get them on as quickly as I could. I knew that the interview wasn't going to have a whole lot of substance per se as far as what they're doing, but I wanted the BV world to know about them and to get to know our Bearded Villain Wyoming chapter a little bit. So I did want to get them on as quickly as I could. So I will be doing a follow-up interview with them once they're able to get their get their feet on the ground and do some more, get some work done like they want to. I will say that Andy, in our chat here during the live stream, kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit just to say, stay tuned. They may have some information coming very soon. So get on Instagram, get over to the Bearded Villain Wyoming chapter, and make sure you like that because they do have some information coming. It sounds like down the pike pretty quickly. So definitely want to keep our eyes out for that. All right, guys, that'll wrap up episode 28 of The Heart of a Villain. Special thanks to my guests, Jeff, Andy from the Bearded Villains of Wyoming, and from the Bearded Villains of Orlando, Puzzle. Remember, you can still buy shirts, patches, and pins at the podcast site, theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. And remember, as one of our brothers told us this week, Jay up in Canada, the heart of a villain never stops beating. Finally, remember, guys, it's okay not to be okay. If you are hurting, find a brother to talk to. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. So for now, everybody, have a great weekend. Enjoy the week ahead. Take care and stay safe.
One brotherhood, one ship, we grind hard for each other. Down for the cause, that's why I call you my brother. And when it's time to give back, we help another. Try to leave a change in the world to be discovered. From my chapter to yours, we're all one, no borders. Don't get it twisted like contortionists in close quarters. My crew has more heads than peeps cleaning up on borders.